This song is the title tune for my latest LP, which is entitled Wake Up Everybody. And I'm sure you will all agree there are things that need to be done in this country today. So what I'd like for you to do is listen very carefully and see what you can do to lend a hand. Wake up everybody, no more sleeping in bed, no more backward thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There's so much hatred, war and poverty. Wake up all the teachers, time to teach a new way. They're the ones who are coming up, what you have to say. They're the ones who's coming up, and the world is in their hands. When you teach the children, teach them the very best you can. Because the world won't get no better if we just let it be. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it, just you and me. Wake up all the doctors, make the old people well. They're the ones who suffer and who catch all the hair. They don't have so very long before their judgment day. So won't you make them happy before they pass away? Wake up all the builders, time to build a new land. I know we could do it if we all lend a hand. The only thing we have to do is put it in our minds. Surely things will work out. They do it every time. We just let it be. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it, just you and me. Change it, yeah.
On anyone, I automatically would think someone is a monster too, but literally anyone around you would know this is really not her.
Jobs and Family Services tell us they were tipped off by someone in Texas who saw a video of Kirksey performing a sex act on a 4-year-old. Police arrested her yesterday. They say Kirksey admitted to them she did this.
We, as family, try the best we can at therapy and talk to her about it stuff.
21-year-old Christina Regusters found guilty of kidnapping a 5-year-old Bryant Elementary School girl a year ago in January and sexually assaulting her. After 3 weeks of testimony, it took a jury of 7 women and 5 men a day and a half to come up with a guilty verdict on all charges. Regusters didn't testify on her own behalf. The jury heard testimony from the 5-year-old victim and saw video from Bryant Elementary School the day of the abduction, which shows a woman dressed in Muslim garb leaving with the girl. She said she was the child's mother. The girl was found about 24 hours later in an Upper Darby parking lot wearing only a T-shirt. Now, Tom Klein, the defense attorney representing this 5-year-old victim and her mother, said today that this is still a big failure for the Philadelphia school systems who allowed this little girl to leave with Christina Regusters about a year and a half ago from Bryant Elementary School. Regusters is now looking at life in prison. She will be sentenced in 90 days.
Please pray for my son. Everyone here right now, please pray.
Witnesses claiming the suspect, Emmanuel Deshaun Aranda, took off on foot and tried to assault an older man who tried to detain him. Police is swarming the scene, tracking down Aranda and arresting him. The motive, a mystery.
At this time, we do not believe there is a relationship between the suspect and the child or the family of the child. and we are actively investigating as to why this incident occurred.
The child sustaining serious injuries, rushed by ambulance to a nearby hospital. A small section of the nation's largest mall was briefly shut down.
Why would you single out a kid and ruin a family's life like this?
Hard to imagine something worse. Alex Perez is with us live at the Mall of America tonight. Everyone is obviously pulling for this little boy, and he's in the hospital tonight, Alex?
That's right, David. Unfortunately, authorities say his injuries are life-threatening. As for that suspect, he's now been charged with attempted homicide. David?
Peace, beloved family. I'm Brother Assad, Brother Charlie, Sister Monique, Brother Obadiah. Welcome to Black Men's Dialogue. What we want to do is we want to try to enlighten the unenlightened by having conscious discussions about certain topics that are destroying black people in America. We also want to encourage progressive black thinking. Peace, my brother. Good to see you. Welcome back. Greetings and peace to you, sister. Ain't seen in a little while. Good to have you back as well. Peace, my brother.
Peace and blessings be upon you,
good
brother.
To see you always.
Likewise.
Yes. We got a couple brothers up in here, incognito. Peace to see y'all too. Thanks for stopping through. No doubt. Hey, listen. Usually I'll say we got a 4-piece or a 3-piece because everybody got their own topic. Today, that's not the case. We got one. And this is going to be discussed and discussed and discussed. Let's get right down to it. First of all, let me say something. Last episode, I was speaking on the young brother Robert in Baltimore. He was going through his transition in his course, aviation, had some struggles. Him and I talked, and the brothers over here, we also talked about being spiritually inclined. And he was definitely receptive, and he was grabbing on to that. And the brother passed his course. And congratulations to your young brother. He'll be watching this. But we're gonna post some pictures up too about that. But he passed that. Good money. You know what I mean? Good brother. So here we go. The topic is, and let me get this straight. The topic is the clinically mentally ill that rape, molest, and or kill. Do they get a pass when it comes to lifelong prison sentencing? Brother Charlie, we'll start with you. I want everybody to elaborate on their feelings. We're going to go around.
Thank you, Brother Saab. Okay, I have to go back a few years to my childhood. And I know my mental health was in jeopardy because of the community I lived in. To put it bluntly, I lived in a gang-infested neighborhood. And my father was a country boy. He didn't know the city like I grew up in. He was working all the time. So a lot of times I found myself fending for myself, and my mother was a staunch Christian. So she imbued me with love, and he had the staunch discipline. So I wasn't a extroverted kid. I was very introverted. I kept to myself. I was quiet. My family kept growing, so we kept moving. So I was the new kid on the block 4 times, the new kid in school 4 times. And that was hard on me. A kind soul reached out to me and brought me out of that shell that I was in and started to normalize my view of myself, because the world was very cruel to me. And it wasn't until I actually left the city and went to Alabama and I said, I'm not crazy. So my mental health was being affected because of the environment that I was in. But a few people, a true blessing to me, A few women reached out to me and pulled me out of that and let me know that it was okay to be who I was. And if that had not happened, I don't know where I would be today. My mother wasn't real talkative, and so she gave me good advice, but she didn't give me good advice every day. You know, she had 9 other children to worry about, so she was busy with that. But when I went to college, I had a pet project, and that pet project was TV violence and antisocial behavior among youth. And that was something I kept going back to. I wrote several papers on it. And I understand how fragile mental health can be, especially in adolescence. I could tell you a great deal about how TV violence and antisocial behavior affects a young mind. Basically, in a nutshell, it desensitizes the child to issues that they should be aware of. Hurting others, ridiculing others, bullying others, helping folk that need to be helped. You know, socialization skills has to happen in this society. In the old days, okay, and I'm talking my generation, and I'm 62. In the old days, the community socialized you. You had the village. You had aunts and uncles that wasn't really your aunts and uncles, but that's the respect that you gave them. And they would let you know when you were going off the tracks a little bit. They would pull you back. They would say, boy, you better stop that, and you would listen. Nowadays, adults are afraid to discipline other people's children.
Remember that question, though, bro? 'Cause that's what we want to answer.
Right. That's the point. Because we don't have that village to support us and help us develop our mental health, we have to have another mechanism. We don't have that. We have the greater society, okay? And that greater society is not always sensitive to our issues. Mental health among our people is a very precarious situation. And the reason why is because if Johnny's been abused all his life, Johnny's going to act out. Okay? If Johnny has committed a crime, his punishment because of his mental state has to be evaluated in a different light. I mean, we don't have the advantages of the majority culture. We don't have the social workers in our families necessarily. We don't have the mental health specialists to evaluate us in light of our context. As a school teacher, I saw a number of children being labeled special ed.
Brother, if you don't answer that question, they don't hear me.
They,
They hear you because of that microphone.
they will not be properly evaluated. I don't believe that we should punish the mentally ill at the same degree and extent as the majority of culture because we have a different culture. We have a different way of looking at people. I believe the punishment should fit the crime. And if you're already impaired from the door because of your circumstances, then you should not be overly punished for your crime. Life imprisonment, I would rather see life in rehabilitation as opposed to imprisonment. Because imprisonment, there's a lot of mental health issues among black people that has them in prison for life. And they're not being properly treated. It's not being properly addressed. Why? Because they don't care. Okay? I think they said it's like $108,000 to keep a prisoner in jail. In jail per year. That's a lot of money. So why would they want to give us mental health counseling and rehabilitation and put us back in society. There's no incentive. I'm going to pass the mic.
Okay, well, thanks.
We come back to you, brother. Absolutely.
So the question was, should the mentally ill person who has raped or killed or molested someone be incarcerated for life? Initially, I said yes. Oh, homie, don't you know me? All right. So, however, I do believe that they should be incarcerated. And the sick need healing. The sick need treatment. So while you're incarcerated, I believe there needs to be treatment for your illness. But there also needs to be a determination that they really are ill. There are some people that participate in those types of acts because they're angry. And so are we calling anger an illness? There are some people that are participating in those types of acts because they have not executed forgiveness. So are we calling unforgiveness an illness? Now, unforgiveness can create illnesses like migraines, irritable bowel syndrome, cancer, depression, heart disease. So those things can create physical illnesses, but I know we're talking about mental illness. So should the person be incarcerated? Yes, because they committed a crime. But don't just leave them there to rot. The whole purpose, if I'm being correct, of incarceration was correction, which is why they call it a correctional facility. So now we know that in many of them, there is no correction, and some of the correction officers may need correction. However, I do believe, yes, if you've committed a crime, you need to be incarcerated. The length of that time, I don't know what the length of that time should be, but during your time, the sick needs to be treated. The sick needs to get healing. The sick needs to look forward to being made well. So perhaps you may be unincarcerated when you're well. Do people like that get well? I don't know. Depends on what caused the illness. But I do believe they should be incarcerated.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you, brother. Thank you, sister. Should they be incarcerated for life?
First off, typically, anyone who rapes, molests anyone doesn't get life. They get approximately 20 years, sometimes a little less. But for this conversation, we'll surmise that they get life. And the question was, do they get a pass? That's the question. Anytime there's a consequence, there should be consequences for your actions. I know when I was raised that there were consequences for actions. So any crime, any immorality that is conducted, I believe that there should be consequences for your action. I think that's one of the issues that we're having in our ethnicity, is that especially the millennials don't understand the concept that when you do something that is criminal, immoral, wrong, that there should be consequences for your actions. It's a new time. They don't have beatings like when we had, they don't have the punishments that they have. They don't even have people or parents stepping away. I'll tell you, my dad told me, since I'm my best example, he had told me, he said, son, let me tell you, if you ever go to jail, don't call me. Blunt, very blunt. He said, and his explanation, because as a good dad was, and he was a good dad, I was blessed, said, if you go to jail, that means you did something that you were not supposed to do. And that's not what I taught you. So I say that to say, when you're talking about, even though they may have a mental illness, look, let's keep it 100. Let's keep it real. all of us have some type of mental illness because of things that we have endured in our lives. That's just how it is. The issue, quite frankly, and you kind of touched on it, Brother Charlie, is the system will stick someone who's classified as mentally ill into this quote unquote correctional system, and they're not getting treated. The major issue is this whole Eurocentric system is not for us, has not been for us, is not for us, and quite frankly, more than likely will never be for us. What we need to start doing, as anything in our ethnicity, we need to start taking the reins off everything. Education. And you kind of touched on it that, as opposed to the European families, we don't have social workers in our families and the means to go food for and so on. You don't necessarily need a social worker. You don't necessarily need a counselor. You need just communication. We need to start communicating with our kids more. We need to start getting involved in our kids' lives more. We need to start opening that line of communication that we're not having because the powers that be has put both parents working in the household when it used to be just one. And if you're one parent in the household, you're working 40 plus hours. So typically you don't have time to go to school, volunteer at school, be there when your kids get home from school, have a conversation with the school about school, sit down and eat even with each other. So that's what the major issue is. We need to start getting away from this Eurocentric system. Start understanding that there's a system in play that's not for us, and instead of us trying to navigate the system that's not for us, develop a system inside the system that allows us to flourish. So, to answer the question, do they get a pass? No one gets a pass. It just, I believe, needs to be a restructuring of how we're dealing with them. Instead of passing it off to them, we need to deal with it.
Appreciate you, brother. Now, I stressed clinically for a reason, okay? This is synonymous with mentally imbalanced, right? Which means that most of the time people don't know what the hell they done did. They don't know if it's right or wrong. They're unaware, so on and so forth, right? Now, there's a couple of examples I'm going to give. And then when we go back around, we can go all touch on them, right? One, this is top for me because this is disgusting. We're going to talk about the Mall of America. When the guy, I don't even want to call him a brother, but the guy took the little young baby and tossed him over the balcony. Now, they said it was because he was angry at girls. He was trying to holler at the women, and they wasn't responding the way he wanted them to. Now, let me say this. I'm going to try to break it down. So, a person that is clinically mentally ill, as opposed to a person that just can't control their emotions, is a little different, okay? So, a person that can't control their emotions, if they're angry, right, and they try to talk to these women and they shoot them down, he's going to be angry at who? The women that shot him down and the representative of the women that shot him down. So who will he harm? He will harm the women that shot him down or a woman that looks like and resembles the woman that shot him down. That is the premise, and the essence of his anger. You understand what I'm saying? You know what that guy did? He went and got a little baby and tried to kill that little baby. So I would say that he was clinically mentally ill because the baby had nothing to do with his anger. You know what I mean? It had nothing to do with his sentiments at all. There's another situation, like I said, and I want everybody to touch on that, right? And y'all know because we from the same city. So, unfortunately, I'm gonna say about 5 years ago, there was a young brother. He was 15 years old. We touched on this very briefly before, and he decided to go into somebody's home through a window, grab a little 10-year-old girl. I don't know if y'all remember this. A little 10-year-old girl. This is up Huntington. Not Huntington Park, but Huntington, right? Snatch her out the house, take her in an alley, beat her close to death, and rape her. This is when our sons was 15. Okay? So when I saw that, it pained me deeply because 10 years old, another innocent victim, and a baby. Okay? However, this guy's not normal. We know our kids are dead. You understand? Your son was over here at all times, like all of them. They not thinking like that. They not moving like this guy is off. Not only is he off, more than likely he was a victim. You understand? So now this is the reason why, one of the reasons why I oppose this, because there's multiple layers to this. You understand? And the crimes are egregious. Don't get me wrong. However, we got to get to the essence of the issue. You feel me? Instead of throwing them in jail for, whatever, 15, 20, regardless. You mentioned it earlier. Jail is supposed to be rehabilitation. We know that's bullshit. Okay? It's warehousing, and it's money. Now it is all privatized, okay? And also the government. Everybody getting paid off that, off of us. Our pain and suffering that came from when we got here, okay? I'm going to cut it short. We're going to go around. Another one. And like I said, I want everybody to touch on these because this is what ties into this right here, this topic, this very topic. I know y'all remember this one. There was a sister that dressed in Muslim garb, went into the school, and posed to be the young girl's mother. Took her out of there, held her captive, raped her, sexually assaulted a little girl, okay? Left her for dead in the park. This girl was 18 years old. Whose house was she in? Whose house did she take the little baby to and do this? I got a problem with that. Why nobody? Because she's the only one that got charged. Somebody owned that house. And on top of that, you got neighbors. Nobody intervened with nothing. That little girl did not own that crib. So those are the things I wanted to touch on, those topics, all right? So mental health clinically or just emotionally retarded.
Thank you. As I said before, I think the crime, the punishment should fit the crime. And I watch a lot of different programs that have to do with criminals, criminal minds, forensic files, and I continually see that rapists, no matter whether they've been counseled or incarcerated, they continue to rape when they get the opportunity. It's an extreme violation of another human being to kidnap, isolate, control, and use that child for their own self-gratification. I can't see rapists being allowed to continue to prey on people years down the road because what they go to jail for is what they think about the whole time they're there. And I continue to see the example of it happening again and again and again. They get out and they do the same thing again. I don't think, from what I've learned, rapists can't be rehabilitated. Child molesters, pedophiles, they cannot be rehabilitated. That is the conclusion that I've seen from a number of cases that I've looked at. So, I know they have a mental illness, but I don't believe that that's one that can be addressed with counseling. I hate to think of someone being locked up for the rest of their life, whether they're mentally ill or not. But in some cases, that punishment is due to the crime that they commit. There are reasons for it, and I've found that those folk who are molested go one way or the other. They either become advocates for children and the downtrodden, or they become habitual offenders. And I hate that that's the way it is, but they've gone through a traumatic event. And if they've gone through it at a young age, it leaves an imprinting on them. And I hate to think about it. I hate to see it happen, but that has been my experience. Whenever I hear about someone being raped, it's like they do not value human life. And if that's the case, how can we have them walking around here in society?
Pardon me 1 second, brother. They're not hearing me. They're going to hear you. So, but let me just, because again, I want to touch on them instances that I spoke about. Do you think that they should be locked up for life? You know what I mean? I'm talking about the dude that tossed that little baby, the dude that raped that young girl, you know what I mean, snatched her out of the house, and the other one was the sister that walked into the school, and you know what I mean?
Okay, those instances.
Yes, sir.
Okay, specifically, the young lady who walked into that school and took that child out of school, you asked the questions, where did she go with that child? There was a Caucasian man's house that she had been having an affiliation with. And she took that child to that house, and he was the one who actually raped her. Okay? So there was a tandem team there. This guy had probably been doing this for a number of years. Okay? So, of course, it was premeditated. It was uncalled for. It was a heinous act. And the conclusion left that child totally devastated. The family totally devastated. One life affects many others. And that's a hard thing for anyone to accept. Yes, she needs to be incarcerated for life. That's the way I feel personally, okay? It's been said that you judge a society by how it treats the least of those in that society. Children are the weakest members. Handicapped persons are weak members. Mentally ill are weak members of that society. But there's some people who have an opportunity to live a better life and choose not to, okay, because of how they've been affected. I don't see a good defense coming from, well, they did it to me, and so I did it to them. I've heard that before. That's says you have lost your humanity. And I feel sorry that those things happen to you. But at the same time, now you've done the same thing, and you know how it made you feel. So you don't deserve the consideration to get an opportunity to do it again.
So how about the brother that tossed the little baby over?
That man is mentally ill to the point of he's unrehabilitatable.
What should happen to him?
I think he should be in jail for life. I don't think you can say, oh, it's okay, one day you're going to be all right, you're going to get out. No. No. I think you forfeited your opportunity to be free in this society.
How about the young brother that snatched the little girl out?
Once again, when a person violates a person's home, burglarizes the home, okay, steals a child, abducts a child, that is the worst thing I feel that a person could do to another person. You're talking about taking over control of a person's life, taking them away from their family, and hurting them, raping them. It doesn't get any worse than that. I mean,
He should get life, 15-year-old kid?
yes, I feel like he needs to be in jail for the rest of his life because he's young enough to do it again. Okay? And I wouldn't want it to happen to my child. I think that's the worst thing, to know that someone has done something so heinous and now they get another opportunity because they went through a few years of counseling. I have a real problem with young people when they commit such heinous crimes and then they turn 18 or 21 and then they're let out. I have a big problem with that. I think that you have to really rethink that. I think that we have to have a better system. I think we have to have not just a court, a judge, an individual deciding what happens to that person. I think we need a separate entity, like the community court. Okay? You feel me?
I do.
I told you it's gonna be. This is one subject. Come on, sis.
Yeah. So I do think, and when you pointed out that the young man, the boy who was 15, our boys were 15 at the time, and would I want my son to go to jail? Absolutely. Absolutely. It depends. It depends on his frame of mind. It depends on his frame. Now, can you undo what you've done? Never. And if I was that little girl's mother, absolutely, he should never see the light of day. But there's a part of me as his mother that feels he shouldn't see the light of day. So I'm not saying that I would make a judgment differently because he was my son, because he's somebody's son. And it's really interesting how when we watch the news and we hear things, we say, oh, they should get the chair, lethal injection, put them under the jail. But I had the opportunity to be called for jury duty one day. And this young man was 19 years old. He was an African-American boy, because I'm 52. You 19, you're still a boy. And they were seeking the death penalty. And they went as jurors, or as potential jurors, of course. They asked every single one of us, how do you feel? Would you have a problem making that call, giving him the death penalty if you were selected as a juror? And it's something very different to watch it on television, but to sit, for me, I'll just say for me, sitting in the courtroom and looking in his eyes, I couldn't do it. I couldn't. I could not take his life, although he had taken another life. And I don't know what that says about me. I don't know if that says, oh, you're weak. I don't know if that says you're too soft. I don't know if that says, oh, you're a great person. I don't really know what that says, but I know that my heart of hearts, looking in his eye, and he looked every one of us in, and that probably was part of the intimidation thing too. Because if you're willing to kill, you're certainly not afraid of anybody. Perhaps. Because you could be you could accidentally kill somebody because you're afraid and you're trying to protect yourself. So I get that. But I couldn't. I couldn't at that time in that courtroom. Now, speaking of the molestation, I have a friend who left her kids. She went somewhere and left her children with his grandparents. Her biological grandparents, meaning her mother, her father, birth parents. Says, oh, Dad, where's baby girl? Oh, she's back in the bedroom. She was in a fetal position. And she looked at her. It wasn't because she had cramps or had a stomach ache. There was a look that gave her a clue. And she said, what happened to you? Her father, meaning the little girl's grandfather, had violated her. Bloodline. So we're not talking about the mother's boyfriend or some guy she picked up at a club or at a party. It was an incestuous thing. And the father, of course, it turned the family upside down, as you would imagine. as it's supposed to, because if it doesn't, then there's something wrong with the family. It's something wrong with everybody. And so she's telling me the story, and my insides are doing flip-flops. But I'm feeling for her as a mother. I'm feeling for her daughter as the victim. And then knowing that this was her father. It wasn't her mother's man or, Uncle Woody. It was her biological father. So they had some really tough decisions to make. So they called the authorities, and they had him put in jail. And this is what he said. Why do you have to do that? Why do you have to call the police and report all of this? Why can't you just send me back to Puerto Rico? So there was no remorse. But I believe there are 3 or 4 girls of my friends. There is one sister that father used to call his special flower. That daughter is a lesbian now. And they suspected that something was different about that sister. But the father, right. This father had violated his daughter, and then he violated his grand. So that thing is often a generational curse. It's something that goes from generation to generation. Okay.
I want to stay on those 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
I apologize. So the molester, yes, the molester too. Yeah, you need the molester. Yes. You too should go to jail. Now, should he go for life? Yeah. Why not? 15? You molested at 15, right? Yeah. Now remember, at 15, he's probably not going to go to a maximum security prison with other adults. But there is going to be some time that you need to pay. And the punishment should fit the crime. The gentleman who felt like he needed to throw a baby, someone should throw him. Okay, would you like to fight now? Because you couldn't get a girl. She was blocking.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah. That's bananas.
First off, for the good sister, what that said about you at the core is that you have the creator in you, and something that most of us that have melanin, matter of fact, all of us that have melanin, is called empathy. That's what it says about you, that you have empathy. Getting to these 3 situations, in the law, they have something that's called intent, which if you don't have, they have to find out if you have intent. If you have some mental issues and are not aware of what you've done, by law, technically, you cannot go to jail. So if you're clinically diagnosed as having mental issues and you don't know what you've done, what's the point of us punishing you if you're not going to really understand why you're being punished? Which is why Brother O says we have to understand that the system that we live in, that was not for us, is not for us, and never be for us, we have to understand that it's not going to help the molester and the rapist. Should they be punished? Absolutely. I mean, I don't think there's any dispute on that. But if you're sitting in prison for 15 years or 20 years, which is what the male, you notice I have to choose my words carefully. I don't use brother, I don't use the male, the young male was probably going to get, and you're not getting your issue addressed. And I dispute with you respectfully, Brother Charlie. I think everybody can be rehabilitated. Whether they will be or not, that's a different story, but I believe everybody can be. I don't believe they can be in the system that's currently going on that we're under. That I agree with you in, because they're not addressing these things. They're not having these individuals in groups 7 days a week while they're incarcerated, talking about this. That's how you would address that in a more effective manner. Not just sticking them in prison with other rapists and molesters and killers and so forth and so on. Not addressing that issue. So that's what needs to be done. Again, that's why I believe we need to get away from the Eurocentric system and start dealing with these things ourselves. You understand what I'm saying? Because what's going on is not working. I totally agree with you. The rapists and the molesters that are going on now, they're not being rehabilitated. None of them, not near one. Not near one. And they have told us, if you let me out, I'm going to rape again. Molesters have told you. They've interviewed tons of them and said, I'm not going to stop. I can't stop. It's a sickness. But obviously, they don't care because, see, the criminal is money. The judges and the attorneys and the defense attorneys and the correctional facilities and the privatization of the jails and so forth and so on, and probation officers and bail bondsmen. It's all a system, which is why they're not trying to address that. Again, so should they be penalized? The brother with the Mall of America, absolutely. Well, you don't even have to know this individual. You know he has some issues because he threw a child up. Fortunately, the child's still alive. I don't know if y'all know that. That's a miracle. That's a miracle. The child is alive. That is truly the creator, because the child is alive. That's some issues. He has some issues. Again, he probably was violated as children. But again, if we're not addressing these issues, but again, we're not, because this is not our system. But in our system, which we need to take over, to cultivate, to grow, to start, we're addressing these things. We're having these conversations daily. Oh, you're still going to get punished, because there's consequences for your action. But you're not going to get punished, and we're not going to try to address the issue. Because here's the point, as you said, they're not going to jail for the rest of their life. They're going to jail 15 years, 20 years, so forth. So at some point in time, you're getting back into society. We don't want to put you back in society, and you're going to rape and molest again. So we're trying to help people, including you, because we have that empathy that the Creator has put us in there. And because the Creator didn't give up on us, we're not giving up on you. You know, so this is what we need to do. 15-year-old boy, again, we got to address this. It's all the same. It's all the same. We have to start addressing the mental issue. Should they be punished? Absolutely, Saad. Absolutely. But then again, that's not the dispute. We need to get to the core. As you say, strip it down. Let's get to the core of this and say, look, we got to address this. If it's not going to happen in prison, which it's not, then we need some outside source, some outside entity.
That's what I want to know from everybody.
Mall of America, guy threw the baby off the Mall of America. Absolutely. But all three of them should be punished. The brother raped the young, beat the rape. All three should be punished. Hands down. There's no question of that. But the issue is that it needs to be addressed, the mental issue that they're suffering with. Simple.
Right. But again, like I asked everybody, lifelong incarceration in prison.
No lifelong. There's no lifelong.
That's what I'm asking.
There's no lifelong. There's no lifelong. If you have a mental issue, I can't stick you in jail for the rest of your life. And you don't really understand exactly what you did. Simple. Simple. Simple.
You good?
That's it. If you don't understand what you have done, no matter how heinous the crime is, I cannot stick you in jail for the rest of your life. Now, again, you get 10, you get 15, you may get 20. But I can't stick you in jail for the rest of your life.
Now, let me just say this. See, I don't like the fact that there's long prison terms anyway for all this, because of the fact that jail is not a nice place. Jail is a negative environment, okay? You ain't going to get better, more than likely, going to jail. You have a small percentage that just dig in and be like, yo, I ain't coming back to this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, you know what I mean? It's not going to make you better. That's why I said earlier, it's not rehabilitation. You know what I mean? This is a game. And we're going to get into that in another episode, which is going to take just one whole deal, the game of the European, right? Whereas though this is warehousing, more to tear us down, more to humiliate us, okay? And more for them to exploit us and get money. Because it all boils down to the pharmaceutical companies that is hitting these people with, our people, with Ritalin and Adderall, okay? And, what's the other one? Therazine, you dig? And many others, okay? That torment us and just really, they wipe us out, honestly, okay? And then the prison system, which is getting paid off of us. Because every crime that's committed, whether you are clinically mentally insane or not, you're going to jail, right? So they're killing us on all factions. Now, I'm going to say this, I'm going to give it to you, Brother Charlie. Look, I got a solution. I'm not going to go deep into it, but I'm going to touch on it because I want brothers and sisters to watch this, to ponder this, and maybe come up with their own solutions like we do. You understand? It's very important. Look here. And this is only coming from me. Now, I know sisters that are mental health therapists. I know sisters that are teachers. I know sisters that are social workers, right? And I came up with this not too long ago, just thinking about it, just pondering this situation because we need help and we need solutions on this. You know what I mean? Our children are being ruined by the system, which all y'all spoke about. The system that don't even love us, don't respect us, and deem us as 3/5 of a man, need I say. Okay? Now, we need to come up with our own privatized system. My thing is this. I talked to a sister that I know who's a teacher and said, listen, sis, how about this? When the young brother or sister's in class and you notice that they're a little bit off, you know me, you know Brother O, Brother Charlie, Sister Monique, and all the rest that's included with Black Men's Dialogue, right? That care about our people, right? Tell us about it. Let us sit down with the child, right? Because we do have people that are mental health therapists, social workers, right? And mentors. And we sit down and talk to these young children before they get to the point where they do this dumb shit and get caught up and their life is ruined and other lives are ruined, right? We sit down and we spend time, right? Quality time is so key. And a lot of that is not happening in the households, okay? If you get that, if you inculcate the positivity, if you inculcate the spirituality, if you inculcate the love, which a lot of them are not getting again, right? You can save them from that behavior, right? Early. You understand? To the camera. Without Ritalin. Without Adderall. And all that bullshit because the Europeans making money off that. Right or wrong? System is making money off that. Of our pain and suffer. Okay? Now, if we do that, we can save them. All right? Without the incarceration, they're making money off that too. The prison system and the pharmaceutical situation, I believe, is probably the most high as far as, how can I say, lucrative situations, right? The highest. We got to stop that. We have to keep it like I think you said, brother, community. We got to get back into that. And if we do that, then we can help save our children, and then they won't even grow up to be misguided, okay, and gone. And then we got to worry about a grown man kicking a sister that's 78 years old in the fucking head on the subway for no reason. Because all she was doing was minding her business, going where she had to go on the train. You understand? Then we don't have to, oh, that's going to be on the clip. We don't have to talk about that then no more. Because we are chiming in, right? We're doing our due diligence as far as helping us and helping our children. They can't help themselves. They're getting put out there now to do what? Fend for self. It's not going to work. And it hasn't worked. You dig? So I believe that we need to form these alliances with each other. We all know people that are in these positions. We do. But are we talking to them? I doubt it. You're seeing this shit on Facebook and you're like, oh my gosh. You know what I'm saying? Enough of that, man. When are we going to get rid of that? That's what the European want. And that's what's happening. It's going to continue to happen until we stop it. Now we have to formulate our own situation to help our own. Once we do that, we take back it all. Our people don't suffer no more. These little children are not being killed for no reason. They're not going to jail for no reason with confusion. Come on, brother.
You know, my heart goes out to the mentally ill, the physically impaired, the uneducated. But when people commit crimes, I mean, there are certain crimes that are worse than others. I mean, it goes beyond just a sin. You know, all sins are supposed to be looked at the same. But when you physically violate someone, it's not about your age. It's about the crime itself. If you don't have an awareness because you're mentally impaired, because you're mentally handicapped, I think there should be a degree of compassion. And, you know, I thought about it on several occasions. And I said, well, what could we do rather than incarcerate someone for life? Could we have an island or a city that was devoted to people who cannot get along with other people in society? I mean, is there enough land? I know there's enough desert out there in this country where we could set up a city, where we could put these people who just cannot get along with others in constructive ways. And if they violated each other, then that crime would be an eye for an eye, which I don't like, but the alternative is for them to be locked away in a cell where they turn into animals. You know what I'm saying? They know what they're getting into. They know what they're about. You know, they have this city, I think it's down in Florida, where they just removed so many people out of the neighborhood, and a pastor, he actually started inviting pedophiles to that community. And they became the majority of the people in that community. Everyone knows what they're dealing with, but they're still free to move about. I wasn't really comfortable with that, because what's to keep them in that community? What's to stop them from going somewhere else, committing the crime, and coming back to that community? But they were getting help. They were being counseled. But the thing is, they still had the freedom to go and commit their crime again. And I think that's the worst thing, to know that this person has violated someone, and now, after a few years, and it could be 10 years, it could be 20 years, it could be even 30 years, they get a chance to do it again. It's like, I think that's the worst thing. You know, I mean, if you were to tell me that this man raped someone else and now he's raped my child, I would be highly upset with not only him, but for anybody who allowed him to walk the streets again. I couldn't reconcile that. That would push me over the edge. And I think I'm a compassionate person, but I think that would push me over the edge. I'm like, let me get my hands on him. Okay? Now I'm committing crimes. And I'm sorry, that's the way I feel. You know, I mean, I think children are innocent and they should be protected. I think women should be protected. I think anyone who can't defend themselves should be protected. And if we allow people to roam the streets when they've already demonstrated a proclivity to hurt others, I think those people are wrong. And I was saying to Brother O, you know, about a community court, you know, touching on bringing it back home. I think there are too many judges who have this ultimate power to let killers go free, to let rapists go free, to I think that needs to be addressed. I think we know we have a court of public opinion, but why not a community court? Okay, people designated from a community that says we want to review this case. We want to review.
The system that don't care about us?
That's where we have to empower ourselves to do that. Because you know what's happening here? We're seeing too many crimes being committed that are not being taken care of. We know it's a disproportionate number of black people in jail. I think they said the ratio of black people being sent to jail was 41% as opposed to 18% for for white people. I mean, that's a problem. There's a bias. That racism is an overt presence in our lives. And that has to be addressed at some point because, I mean, we're seeing people that are getting fed up with it, okay? And I hate to see a revolution based on race because innocent people are going to be hurt on both sides. You understand? But that's what it's going to come down to because if you're constantly being abused, as a people, you're going to rise up at some point, okay? People being incarcerated for long periods of time when they don't deserve it, that's a problem. And people who need rehabilitation and incarceration being allowed out on the streets, that's a problem, the way it's being done today. I mean, there's too many repeat offenders. Way too many repeat offenders because the issues are not being properly addressed. We need to have a court of public opinion, but we also need to have a community court to actually say, hey, you need to review this. This judge just allowed this person to walk free. Or this judge allowed this person to do a little bit of time. When our people, black people, are being incarcerated for life. 3 strikes, you're out. That's not hard to do. To get 3 strikes, you're out. Yeah, sometimes it's not. Sometimes they go beyond that.
All right, pass that baton, brother. We're going to get back with you. We gonna
Okay.
do it. Sister, do it. Yes, sir. Appreciate you, brother.
I think going along with what Brother Assad said about, and each of you, getting with our children and being proactive instead of reactive would help us avoid a lot of this, because there are some of our children that really have some issues, and they're organic. They are organic. They are mental health issues. They are issues where they have chemical imbalances, and they are very real. I know folks that look like us we don't want to talk about those things because they're taboo, but they are very real. And the reason I can say that is because one summer, a few years ago, I had 4 mothers tell me that their children had tried to commit suicide. One was successful. But here's the thing. I have a friend that works for DHS, and I can't remember what it's called. Yes, but there is a psychosis that happens, and I don't know if it happens in the white community, but there is a psychosis that starts with our children when they're about 14 years old. Each one of these children was 14 years old. Now, the one little girl that was successful, her father was bipolar, and he wouldn't take his medicine. So when you ignore your issues, when we ignore our issues as adults, we tend not to deal with our children's issue. Because if I don't want to take a pill, I'm not going to throw a pill down your throat. Why would I do that? But there was a real mental health issue. Clearly, it was familial. It was genetic. But this little girl was a straight A student. She wasn't being bullied. She had not been molested. There were none of the things that we would think, oh, well, this must have been going on. This must have been going on. She couldn't silence the voices in her head. She couldn't silence the voices. And the only way she knew to make those voices stop without being chemically, was to stop everything. So her parents opened, she came in, had a regular day of school. They were getting ready for dinner, and they couldn't find her. I'll call her Susie. Where's Susie? It's time for dinner. They opened the closet door. Now, I wouldn't even think to look for my kid in a closet. They opened the closet door, and they found her hanging there. Here's the thing. It was all on her phone. She had almost like a diary on her cell phone. And she had erected a structure in order to do this. So if you have the wherewithal, could have been one of our future engineers. You could have built a car. You could have been an electrical engineer. Instead, you systematically erected a structure to end your life because that was the only way you knew how to silence the voices in your head. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you know if her parents were strictly involved? Because, see, a lot of times, I mean, if you're not communicating
right
fully with the child,
right,
then, I mean, they feel alienated.
Right. You're right. So the question was, were the parents closely and immediately involved? And I don't know the answer to that, and I apologize for that. I know that they were together, that meaning they were married and living in the same house. But I don't know. I don't know if she had That's not true. She had gone to a sleepover one time, and they couldn't find her. She kept disappearing, and so they found her, I believe, in another person's room. In another one of the bedrooms at this person's house, and all the lights were out. She was sitting on the floor, and so she was having a moment at that point, and so, I know that there are some things that we're not going to be able to fix on the back end. But if we can get with our children, love on them, and be honest with ourselves, because I don't care if your kid is the son of Sam. Nobody wants anything to ever be wrong with their kid. And very few of us, you ever see on the news, oh, he was such a good boy. He left a string of, not my son, he left a string of dead bodies. He chopped them up, buried them in the back, put them in ice trays, and put them in the back. And then, ain't nobody black do that, because we don't have time for all of that, all right? But, when 4 people in the same summer came to me, I had to ask myself, I said, you know what, Lord, why me? Why would you have these people share? And the one thing I felt was that they knew I wouldn't judge them. And so I'm grateful for that, but it gave me empathy because I have children, and it reinforced the fact that we have to love on our children, not baby them, not enable them, but they need to know that they're loved, and they need to know that there's an open line. We got to keep them talking. They need to know that there's an open line of communication, so that when I hear voices, and it's not the people in the house, and it's not people I can see, and I don't mean to make light of it. I need to be able to say, hey, listen, Dad, I'm not feeling so good. I feel like my head is telling me to do something that I don't think is right, but I need to know, because that's when I look at that girl, I want to do bad things to her. I want to hurt her. Or what have you, whatever the thoughts are, I want to hurt myself. My son came home from school one day and said, Mom, so-and-so is a cutter. Now, I know what a cutter is, but I wanted to understand that he knew. I said, so what you mean? They cutting class? They not going to classes? No, Mom. You know, he thought I was dumb as a box of rocks, and it's okay, because I want you to tell me everything that you know I need to know. And so they were slitting their wrists. It's a cry for help. It really is. And so if we get them on the front end, love on them and say, hey, listen, there is no good thing that's going to come of you hurting yourself. And you're worth it. You're worth the investment. You're worth the time. You're going to be something. Greatness lives in you. You come from kings and queens and priests. And you're loved. You're loved. That's why they love gang. Gangs love on them. We are all like-minded. And you cool with, you down with me, and I got your back. Never mind that it's only going to lead to imprisonment or death or whatever. But these people love me. They care about me. They think I'm worse. I'm something when I get with the skyrockets, you know, for lack of, you know, not wanting to name some other gang. When I get with the skyrockets, I'm somebody because I'm the grand poobah and I ain't nobody back at the ranch. No, they loving them. Same thing with cults. They love them right straight to you know where. Now you drinking Kool-Aid. Now you drinking funny Kool-Aid.
Thank you, sis. Yes. Yes, sir. We're gonna go around one more time. Because I know the brother got to be out soon, so we're going to go around one more time.
Good. Good. Let's get it. This is what we do. This is what we do.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. First off, Sister Monique hit it right on the head. We're failing. We're failing. The failure is not with the criminals. The failure is, I told I'm not soft stepping anymore. I'm putting it right out there because we got to stop the soft step. We're doing so much of that. You know who's failing? I'm failing. We're failing. Parents are failing. We got to break it down because we have to understand where this is really coming from. First off, rape, molestation, all that's learned behavior. When we were back in Africa, now I wasn't there, at least if I was there, I don't recall being there. But I was surmised that we weren't raping and molesting back in Africa. Bingo. When they brought us over here, we weren't raping and molesting each other. So where do we get these things from? First off. Secondly, understanding that the system that is in play is to destroy us. Again, I'll reiterate, since has always meant to destroy us, is currently destroying us, and I surmise will always be here to destroy us. There was a time when we thrived as people, as quote-unquote black people, African Americans, brown skin people, whatever you want to call yourself. You know when that time was? When mom and dad was in the household. Now, they can't be in the household because the system has been set up to the fact that you need so much money if you have two parents in the household, which most of our brown skin people don't have. Both of them have to work. Which means, so what neglects when your mom and your dad, if you have two parents in the household working, or if you just have one, mom or dad, and they're working 40 plus hours a week, 50 plus hours a week, 60 plus hours a week, 70 plus hours a week, what is neglected? Your children. That's why we're failing, as Sister Monique said. We're failing our children, not necessarily because we're bad parents. That's not what that means. We just don't have time. Mom has 3 kids, 4 kids, 5 kids, and she's grinding with a job and a half or 2 jobs. She's not a bad parent. She just doesn't have time. That's what we're failing. That's what we're failing. That's why we have to take back our household. That's why we have to get away from this Eurocentric system that has destroyed us, that we keep feeding into and say, hold on a second, this ain't working. We're losing everyone. We're losing our boys, our girls, our men, our women. All we got to do is take back our household. We have to become more intertwined in our children. We have to say, you know what? I need money for my household, for my children. But you know what? I'm only going to work a certain amount of time. It's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a struggle. But I need to get more involved in my children. I need to be able to go to school more. I need to be able to go to their events more. You know, I need to open that line of communication more. I need to get away from TV. I need to get away from the social media. We need to sit down as a family and start eating. No TV, no radio. What happened at school today? Go around the table. I don't care if you got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kids, you're a single mom. Everybody tell me what happened at school today. What's going on in school? So we can find out what's going on. Because as you say, when you're dealing with some things and you don't have an outlet, that's what suicide comes. And I also have an associate who had a daughter that attempted suicide. So, you know, these are the things that never happened in our ethnicity. We've learned these. No black kids would never commit suicide. They don't know suicide. What is suicide? Right. What is cutting yourself? We ain't do that. All this stuff we learned from other ethnicities. We got to get this disease out of this. Hey, bingo. You know, we got to get out of this and start saying, look, and I'm, I have to word this correctly, but I'll say this. I'm sick and tired of hearing people say they love their kids. I'm sick. I don't care. Don't tell me you love your kids. Show me you love your kids. When was the last time you went to their ballerina event? When was the last time you went to their basketball game, football game, basketball? When was the last time you went to school? When was the last time you had a one-on-one conference with a teacher? When was the last time you had a conversation with your kid? When was the last time? Where did they go over? Who are their friends' name? Where do they live? How many parents do they have? When do you know all of that? If you can't answer those questions, because I don't know the time that I grew up, you were not allowed to go to somebody's house if my parents didn't know your parents. Talk about a sleepover. There was no sleepover if my mom isn't physically, or my dad isn't physically over the house, scour the house, how many people in here, how many older men you got it, if it's a female, who's going to be here, who's the mentor, so forth and so on, what's the number, so forth and so on. You know, we were involved. We're not involved. Partly because we need so much money that we're working too much. We're working. Look, before there were clocks, before there were lights, before there were light bulbs, the Creator made it. Sun comes up, rocks about 6, 7 o'clock. It goes down at 6 or 7 o'clock. You get 12 hours. Supposed to be sleep, supposed to relax. We're not supposed to be working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. Again, the system that we have been put into and fed into and still are feeding into is not thinking out of the box and saying, hold on. As my man, because I'm going to keep talking his name because he's no longer here, so God bless his soul, Dr. Sabi says, we are different than other people. We are different than other ethnicities. We need to stop trying to be like other ethnicities and be who we are. Our food is different. Our rhythms are different. The way we move is different.
Melanin.
There's a reason why you can't beat your kids today. It ain't because of Caucasian people. It's because of us. They say, oh, no, that's working. That discipline works for them. We need to stop that. Well, guess what here now? If your mom beats you, you can call 911 and we'll come. My mom said too. She said, I'm going to tell you now, if you think about picking up that phone, you'll never make the second one. You'll never make the second one. You might make the 9, but you'll guarantee you won't make the second one. This is my house. My rules go by, and this is how we do this. We're not bringing somebody else in here. And that's what we have to have. We have to have this certain mindset so that we don't address the issues. Because the question is, and I'll touch on Brother Troy about the criminals. We're not criminals bred by nature, innately. That's not us. This is learned behavior. And the question we need to ask to find out, not how long we should punish Johnny for raping or molesting somebody. Why did he do it? Why did he do it? Just like you had the situation, unfortunately, with the young lady who was molested and raped by the granddad. If you open the line of communication to say, look, if anybody, I'm talking, and I have a female friend, and she has a child's doctor. I don't know what you call it, whatever you call it. I don't have kids. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. Huh? Yes, pediatrician. And he's a male. And even he says it. She says, look, the only reason why I can touch you because your mom is here and I'm doing an examination. Don't let anyone, male or female, touch you in these areas. And she's like 4 years old. Anyway, we have to do these things and have them understand that this is how these things are supposed to go. Open a line of communication, find out why. If you have a line of communication with your child and say, look, and these children are smart, so you got to touch them early. You know, look, if you have any issues, talk to me. I don't care what it is about. If there's an issue about your friend, come to me. If your friend has an issue, if she don't want to talk to parent, have her come to me. If you're getting bullied at school, if somebody's picking on you, if somebody touches you, if you feel sad one day, I don't care what it is. You call me at work. If you're going to call me at work, you wait till I can answer the first thing I want to know. But these are the things we got to do. We're failing our children, and this is where it's starting at. This is where it starts and where it's ending at. We're not doing what we're supposed to do. And then we ask in other ethnicities when it's too late, say, oh, we'll lock them up. Well, once you lock them up, as Brother Sai said, they're gone. All you do is make it a better criminal. You're not rehabilitating them at all. You know what I mean? Instead of us taking back everything, we're in control of everything. We got to stop pushing these things off on other ethnicities. They tell us, oh, you get married, you got to have a marriage license. Says who? Who are you? Oh, you got to do this. You got to tell. I'm not telling you jack. Who are you? You got to buy our clothing. Why not? You mean telling me there ain't no black designers? I know there are. Why we keep feeding into this? You know, it's a whole system. We got to get out of that.
Yeah, but again, appreciate you, brother. Listen, and I'm going to take a quick break, but as you said, look, it's all about we have to start reprioritizing. We're too focused on the bullshit that means nothing. It's not helping us. It's not beneficial to us. You know what I mean? It's a detriment. When you talk about the materialism, consumerism, you know what I mean? The capitalism, all that bullshit is what? It's benefiting the European. That is the one that controls the system that is killing us, destroying us, right? We got to start understanding that. People, look, listen to us and look into this camera and understand, man. We got to start tapping into the mentals and understanding what it's all about. It's a game. We're going to get into that another time. But the game is serious. And we're losing. And we have been losing. You understand? I'm going to keep mine short. We go around again, then we're going to chop it. Brother Charlie, I'm going to step off for a bit.
I've been recovering from a workplace injury the last 3-4 years, and I feel like I have to go back to work. I have something to do. I've been a poet for a number of years, since junior high school, and I really never published because they were my intimate thoughts, my feelings. And as I said earlier, I had a few really caring individuals reach out to me and take me out of my shell and put me in a leadership position, and it changed my life. And I've worked with young people, and I realized that I know where they're coming from because I was there. And suicide has been on the rise for a number of years, and I really just believe it's because we're not talking to each other, like Brother O was saying. Like you have said, people have come to you because they realize you're compassionate. And that's what has to happen. And I was talking to my friend just last night, and I said, if I had to choose my life, an occupation at the beginning of my life, or my work period, it would be to be a motivational speaker. And I think that's what would stop suicide. I think that's what would stop the murder and the mayhem and so many other crimes that young people are committing today, because they're not being inspired to be better, to do better, and to help somebody else. And I think that's what we're really going to have to do as a community. We're going to have to reach out to our young people and let them know that there is something else besides what they see every day. You know, I was talking about TV violence earlier. I was talking about antisocial behavior. When we isolate ourselves from our community, we also desensitize ourselves from each other and how our feelings are being impacted by the behaviors of others. And I think that that's where we have to get back to as a community, because we have to help ourselves. You know, this society was built to exploit us. This society has been using us, and I mean, there's some nasty things that have been done to us. I mean, the whole term MF, it comes from the slave master putting mother and a son inside a room with bags over their head. You understand? We've been degraded as a people from the word go. Okay? And these ancestral relationships, they're historical. You understand? Mental issues coming from ancestral relationships are a real part of our culture. We can't ignore these things. You understand? So my thing is, I don't want to see more black people incarcerated. I think that if they can afford to allow Caucasian young people to have less time or no time, then it should be the same for black people. But if that's not going to be the case, then it's supposed to be equal. It's supposed to be equal because we've been living by the Constitution. Okay? Oh, that's a fallacy. You can't have founding fathers say that all men are created equal. We hold these truths to be self-evident. How can they be self-evident when we're not treating people equally? You understand? If you go down the line in every aspect of this society, black people are being discriminated against. Mental health issues are not being addressed. Incarceration, I believe they're not becoming a better criminal, they're becoming animals, more desensitized to the feelings of others. That's the way I feel about incarceration. Incarceration for life if they can't be rehabilitated. And I think that has to be a determination by a group of people, not one single judge. If it's a jury and they make a determination, I feel better about that decision than one individual. You understand what I'm saying? It's got to be a community-based thing, okay? Because everybody, except maybe that person that's being locked away, should have a certain comfort level with the decision about that person. They should be able to say, he's in a better place, okay? It's better that he gets the help that he needs, and I'm okay with that. You know, if it's my child, I'll be okay if he's in a better place getting the treatment he deserves, okay? If he was locked away for life, as long as he's being treated humanely, I could live with that because I don't want to have to live with the fact that he may go out and hurt somebody else again. I'm very uncomfortable feeling that this person is going to get out and they're going to find another little child raped, abused, tortured. You know, that's unconscionable to me. You know, I would like to see us have more community resources. But if 1% of the population owns more wealth than 99%, that tells you right there that something's very drastically wrong. And that's the case. That's where we're at in this society. You know, if the 1% has the majority of the wealth, they have more than the whole 99, that's ridiculous. You know, we have to revolutionize the society. And you know, just the other day on Facebook, I heard about this man who's the heir to the whole Cartier fortune. You know, he has several other large companies. He was worth $7.5 billion by his lonesome self. And he was worried, and he was staying up at night because he felt like the middle class is being destroyed and that the poor people were going to rise up and destroy the rich people. And it seems like that's how they're living, putting us in a very ugly position where we're going to have more mental health issues and more crime in our community. You know, I mean, we're preying upon each other just trying to survive. I mean, there's so many vicious tactics that are out there that we can't help but turn on one another. I mean, suicide, they came to you because you were a listening ear and you had something positive to say to them and you were a caring person. And I think that's what has to happen. And that's what we're here about, okay? We're trying to influence our people in a positive way. We're trying to motivate them, okay, to be better, okay, and to see the problems that we have. You know, I applaud Brother Assad for doing this, okay, because if we don't do it, who will? And if we don't do it now, then when? You know, Brother O has donated his time, and he comes here with an enthusiasm and a positivity that's infectious for me. You know, I'm grateful for your presence here, sister. It's something that is in us. We see. We're caring, thinking, intelligent adults, and we see the problems. You know, and I'm grateful. I really am grateful to Brother Sai for giving us all a forum to express our views. Likewise. You know, because if our children will tune in, then maybe that one thing that they hear might turn them away from suicide. Okay? I really believe that these children who have mental health issues don't have someone to go to. Absolutely. You know, and it's putting them in real terrible positions. Absolutely. You know, I hope we can get back to that point where we become the village. Oh, you know, because otherwise we're lost. Oh, we will. It's coming, brother. It's coming.
So I definitely agree with all of you in thinking that it takes a village, and you're right. And I think what Brother O said is key. We take back our community one household at a time. Because if what I'm telling you in my household is matching what's going on in your household, and it's respect, it's love, it's everybody's important. It's not about you. It's not about things or stuff. It's about relationship. If we are all giving each other the same message, then everybody that leaves our home has the same pattern of thinking. If we go back to how the older women used to tell us, younger women, how to dress, button up that blouse, your skirt's too short, or take that. I remember being a teenager at church in youth group, and I put some lip gloss on, and this older woman said, I look like I had chicken grease all over my lips, and take it off. And I was so embarrassed, but I took it off. Right. They taught us how to dress, how to carry yourself, how to be a lady. I see more butt crack on the subway, more bellies. Nobody wears a girdle. Nobody wears a bra. Everybody's in tights. Why they make them in size 42, I don't know. But older women taught us that. The older men would grab a son. Didn't have to be his son, because they were all his sons. They were all his nephews, his grandsons, and taught him how to be a man, taught him how to be respectful, taught him how to carry themselves, taught him what to do, and they were stopped by the police. Don't mouth off. Yes, sir. Yes, officer. Is there something I can do for you? Is there something wrong, officer? Not that you were bowing down or being a coward, but you were being respectful. And now we need to know how to be respectful to maintain our lives. It's a different day. And so if we just go back to what everybody thinks is old and played out, but it didn't cost you your life, I think lives would be much sweeter, much better. We would live longer. We would live longer because we wouldn't be as stressed, for one thing, and that goes back to that whole internal thing, those internal things that we're holding on and not letting go of that affect you physically. But also, it would bring an external, almost like a revolution. You know what I mean? And so I think we've all kind of touched on that, where it starts with us. It starts today, and it starts with meeting them as young as we can so that we're not trying to rehabilitate them when they're older.
Yes, thank you, sis. Yes, yes. Brother O, I will say this real quick. You touched on it. I just want to say real quick, because I always say this on almost every ep. Ladylike is a concept that has been lost. The grandmothers and the mothers used to teach, but the grandmothers were 60 years old back in the day when we were coming up. Now they're 35. Okay? Very different situation. You understand? But as you mentioned, that term, ladylike, was serious, yo. And that thing was prominent. You know what I mean? And you felt good about it. Now, it's the whore culture at 8 years old. Brother O. We're going to close out.
First off, you don't even hear that term lady anymore. Sir, ma'am, Mr., Miss. These things are passe now. You don't hear none of that stuff. Look, this thing is not hard. It really isn't. We just have to come to an understanding. And again, we do this, and I always personally thank each and every one of you who takes your time to come here. Look, let's keep it real and very blunt with it. We have to first understand, again, how we came to be in America, why we're here, how we were brought here, and understand that nothing has changed. The system is going to be what the system is. We didn't design it. It's their system. It was designed to subjugate us. We've been subjugated. We're going to still be subjugated. We're still enslaved. For those of y'all who don't think y'all enslaved, go to your job and tell your boss to kiss your butt and see how long. See how long you're enslaved. Absolutely. You better do what master say. Bingo. So don't think just because we're not using the slave master anymore, we're still slaves. Even the guys that's playing basketball, football, all the sports play. They're high-priced slaves, but they're slaves. None of them owns the team. The owner owns most of the money, and they better do what the owner say. Bingo. That being said, once we understand the system that we're in, that we're currently in, that's never going to change, and stop trying to buck the system, maneuver in the system, and develop our own system inside of this horrible, racist, bigoted, subjugated system that we're in, we're going to thrive. It's not hard to do. We have to take back everything, as Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X. Now, we don't have to go back to Africa, as Marcus Garvey was saying. We can do it right here. All you got to do is separate, take control. Develop our own businesses. First off, starting our own household. Here it is. Newsflash. We got to get back to the two-parent household. Sisters, stop giving these guys children out of wedlock. Make them marry you. Once you give these guys children they don't want to marry anymore, say, we can do what we do. We're going to be responsible for doing this. Now, when you feel that I am that type of individual, or the woman that you want, you ready to put a ring on this finger, then I'll give you kids. Other than that, you're not getting none. At least kids, that is. Anyway, moving on. We have to start doing it. You know what I mean? It's not the money. Look, let's keep it 100. Caucasian people, their marriages, a lot of times are business marriages. If you didn't know that, they're pulling their resources. They're saying, look, okay, I want children, you want children, you're making 50,000, I'm making 50,000, together we'll make 100,000. It's a lot easier to manage a family with 100,000 combined as opposed to your 50,000 by yourself with your 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7 kids. It's that simple. Let's get on the ball with that. We got to start thinking. We got to get back to how we were. You know what I mean? Stop wasting money. One of the reasons why capitalism has flourished in this society, one of the reasons why we're still here is because one thing they know about quote-unquote black people. Guess what? When they beat you down and they kill your son, the cops kill your son, they give you $1 million. Guess what out of that $1 million you're going to do with it? By the time you finish buying a luxury car, jewelry, clothes, all designed by Europeans, all going back to them, if you've thought about buying a home. if you thought about buying a home. That's if you thought about buying a home. Out of that $1 million that you have, you're probably only going to have about $50,000 left. If that. That's all that's going back to Caucasian people. So they don't mind give you that $1 million because they know it's going to come right back to us. Same thing about your job. They don't mind give you that money this year because they know you're going to spend. We got to stop. Look, black people, we got to stop wasting money. Stop buying these designer clothes who not even created by us. We got to get out of that. It's absurd. And then you think you've done something because you're walking around with Polo or Gucci or Ralph Lauren. We look idiotic. We look idiotic. Name a Caucasian person that's walking around with a black person's designer name on. Not none. We got designers of our own. Let's promote them. You know, we gotta take back everything. We are the most intelligent, creative, blessed individuals. Every invention that has been invented in America, if we didn't directly design it, we're behind it. Look it up. Don't believe me. Google it. Sports was segregated until someone said, you know what? Our sports are boring. But look at these Negro League baseball players. Look at these football players. Do you know that in the 70s, all the great football players came out of historical black colleges and universities? The reason why? Because they couldn't go to Miami. They couldn't go to Alabama. They couldn't go to LSU. So they was going to Southern. They was going to Grambling State, Jacksonville State, and these forth and so on. This is how blessed we are as an individual, as blessed as we are as a people. Look, we got to stop going to the cop. Such and such is doing crime. Look, this is what's going to happen with crime now. We're going to start developing our own security force. Guess what? So first off, we're going to do like Sister Monique said. We're going to get these kids. We're going to start getting involved in these kids. We're going to start teaching these kids. This is what's right. This is what's wrong. If we find out, and this is what is so imperative for us as black men, African-American men, brown-skinned men, whatever you want to use, I care less, use it. We have to get back into our household. We have to get back into our neighborhoods. It's up to us. It is a divine order that we're supposed to protect everyone. Our women, our children, we're not doing it. There's no rapes, there's no molestation when you got men in the area. Look, this is how it's going now. There's no more street robberies. There's no more home invasions. There's no more rapes. There's no more molestation. If we find out that one of these things happened, once we catch you, I didn't say if we're going to catch you. I said once we catch you. Once we catch you, you're not going to the cops. We become the cops now. That's how it's going down. We're not sending you off to a system where it's not even punishment. People in prison living better than homeless people. 3 hots in a cot, free health insurance, free dental insurance, weights, GEDs, job certification, college degrees. It's a negative environment, absolutely. But the whole point is color TV, cable. You understand what I'm saying? This is what we have to start doing. We have to start taking back everything. Stop looking at the quote unquote, I don't use this term, but stop looking at the white man to solve our issues. He never has, not doing now, never will. It's up to us. Let's get back to, as Sister Monique said, the old way. The old way worked for us. 2 parents in the household. Mom there with the kids when they came home. Involved. A community table, a community dinner. We're sitting there talking about certain things. The neighborhood, the community involved. Look, if you see my son, look, I'll tell you what. I had a next door neighbor. I used to see girls in the house. So that was my thing. My mom came one day, and she's no longer here, so I can use the name Miss Thummer. She said, Miss Thummer said you had a girl in the house. She already knows it's true. So she's the way you see, I'm gonna lie. My mom was average. No, you don't lie. Yeah, I had a girl in the house. Didn't I tell you not to have no girl in the house when I was here? Yes, Mom. Okay, punishment. Very simple. You know, we got to set the rules. I understood. I broke the rules. There's a consequence for me breaking the rules, and I didn't do it again. Or at least I was smart enough to. I started breaking him in the back door there. Exactly. You know what I mean? And that's what we just got to start doing. Just take back, again, our household, one household at a time. Start doing the proper things, the things the creators want us to do. 2-parent families, getting married, being involved in our children, starting our own businesses. Stop working for the man. You know what I mean? If you do work for the man, work for him, get your business, get your finances, so you can start your own business. Even if you still work for the man, fine. But don't have the man be the only source of income so that one day he say, we don't need you anymore. Uh-oh.
And that's going to be on that game when we do the game.
These are things that we got to start doing. It's not hard. It's very easy to do. And again, we got to start looking at each other, loving each other. But we got to start with the kids. We got to start as parents to start getting more involved in the kids. Open the line of conversation. Letting them know, look, if somebody touches you, if you're having a mad day, somebody's bullied you, let me know. I'll take off work. And go up. We showed that clip on that last one where the young lady said that she was being touched by your boyfriend. And the lady, I ain't even call her a lady. The female talking about he's a good man, and the sister is taping you, telling you that your boyfriend is touching her, and you're accusing her of trying to steal your man and telling her that she's nothing. That's deplorable. This is stuff we talking about. Stuff like that, we got sisters for you. Again, no. Everybody's on the same level. Everybody can get got. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do, if you're not taking care of your kids, we're having a conversation with you. Everybody has a conversation. You commit crime, you're not taking your kids, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. We got males and females who are going to have a conversation with you. Catch my drift. Yes, sir. This is what we got to start doing.
Look, man, we're going to continue this. We're going to continue this. Because this, I told you it was going to go on. I told you. This ain't nothing that we can just do it. You understand? Deprogramming. Sum it up. Deprogramming. We have been programmed by the Europeans since we got here on this soil. And we are still programmed, so we have to be deprogrammed. That's the bottom line. Now, beautiful. We're going to do it again. I love everybody here. I appreciate everybody here. I thank y'all for coming through, and I love y'all energy. You know what I mean? And we love you out there, too. That's why we're doing what we do. We definitely want to promote the upliftment of our people, the enlightenment. And we want to have more talks like this. You understand? So, there you have it. Black Men's Dialogue. We signing off. Prayerfully, we was able to reach and spark the minds of brothers and sisters so you can continue to have these type of conversations within your own circle. Each one teach 10. Until next episode, God bless. Love is love. Peace. Peace. Thank everybody. Beautiful.
Everybody. I'm talking about don't push out. Stop pushing that don't push. Don't use us. Stop using the dope. Wake up. Yeah. Tell me now, wonder what you tell me now. False lying, false preaching, false teaching, Wake up, y'all, come on. You preachers, stop preaching what you teach. Teach the truth. Wake up, preachers. Politicians, well, stop lying. Stop lying.
Please